It's the sort of law that this Parliament should support.
I call the honourable member, the Reverend Dr. David Clark.
Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity to speak to this bill. I think Dr. Smith's contribution was useful and typical of the wide-ranging conversation that we're having in respect of the issues and principles underlying this legislation and appropriate for the committee stages. And so I want to dig a little deeper into the government's attitude towards privacy and context, which was an issue that Dr. Smith raised. And I want to use a concrete example, the IRD privacy breaches from last year, to explore that theme a little. And I also want to be clear that I don't think that the government's response is adequate. I think this bill takes some steps in the right direction, but they're meek. We need a more holistic approach, a wider approach, not one that is so piecemeal. The IRD privacy breaches last year involved 6,300 people, and these were the ones that were revealed in October. There were 32 separate breaches that affected that many people. And there's something going wrong in the system when that happens. Regardless of whether it's been happening for a while or not, it's a problem that needs to be addressed. And what we don't see is a government that's taking that seriously, that problem of addressing these privacy breaches. Because if we look at the breaches at ACC, the breaches at WINS and the breaches at IRD, and we add them up, we see that 16,000 Kiwis have had their private details released to other people in just those examples. Now that's 4 out of every 1,000 New Zealanders. If you extrapolate that across and you say this can continue as it is, you pretty quickly, 10 years, you get to a case where 4% of New Zealanders have had their privacy details released and their private details released. And that starts to undermine the whole system. When we talk about IRD, we're talking about people's most sensitive personal information, all of their financial records and all of their banking details can be in there. There are details about their history that nobody would want released. We need trust if we are to run government effectively in this country. And what's more, Mr. Speaker, of those 6,300 people whose privacy was breached by the IRD last year, we know that 5,700 of those people were never contacted. Those people do not even know that their private information has been released. And I think, Mr. Speaker, this is a tragedy. This is a shambles. This is a government that isn't facing up to this privacy issue properly. We have a computer system in the IRD that we know is 20 years old. We know that it predates Facebook by 10 years. We know that it predates Google. We know that it pretty much predates the internet as we know it today. And that system is still expected to handle all our most sensitive information. It's no wonder that things are going wrong. Mr. Dunn has been the Revenue Minister for 7 years and has failed to lay out a proper plan to address this problem. And the IRD is struggling in many other respects. We know that there's $7 billion of tax outstanding roughly. There are 1 million tax returns unprocessed. We've got a department that is not performing, that is under pressure, and we've got a government that's mouthing platitudes about privacy, but is actually not taking the concrete steps to address it. It is spending money, we're told, on consultants. Capgemini, I think, have pocketed about 20 million so far in consultants' fees, but the government hasn't yet laid out a cogent plan as to how it's going to update that computer system, which is a critical part in taking these privacy issues seriously. We can't wait 10 years. We can't wait another 10 years for all private details of New Zealand citizens to be released in order to address this problem. We need the government to step up and show that it is determined to actually address this problem, to put its money where its mouth is, to say, well, it's one thing for Bill English to say 700 million from the asset sales is going 700 million, he said, is going towards repairing the computer system. John Key estimated $1 billion. The IRD and Peter Dunn have used the 1.5 billion figure. They're all over the show. They're all over the show. They've been looking at this, ministers, for 2 years, and they have not yet begun to outline a plan for New Zealanders as to how they are going to take their private details seriously. Now, that's just not good enough, Mr. Speaker. We've also got another issue in that the consultants they're using, Capgemini, have an absolutely appalling reputation for tax avoidance internationally. And the UK government, we've seen in the last week, has said it will not employ Capgemini, well, the likes of Capgemini, Mr Speaker, to...
I call the honourable member Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. In my first speech, I said I thought there was